Parents with nanny cams. What have you caught your babysitter doing? Story 1. Watched her outside playing with my dogs. She was dog sitting. Our yellow Labrador and golden retriever puppy started munching the blueberries right off our blueberry bushes. They know darn well they're not supposed to get into the blueberry patch. We watched our dog sitter run over to them and try to get them to stop. She then ran inside and ran back out with a bowl. She proceeded to race the dogs for the blueberries. Had to be one of the highlights of our trip. We came home to a bowl full of blueberries in the fridge and 2 very guilty puppers. One of the dogs my family had when growing up developed a taste for blackberries. We tried to discourage him from eating them through various means, but nothing was out of reach for him, and he had the ability to tell precisely when they ripened. Even though we had the vines tied up off the ground, he'd still get them. If you caught him in the act, you'd see him on his hind legs giving a careful sniff to identify the ripe ones, then delicately pluck each of them off the vine. God, I miss that blackberry thief. Story 2. This isn't something that I caught a babysitter doing, but I remember that once I saw on TV the case of some parents that went with their baby to the doctor because she cried a lot for apparently no reason. The doctor told them that she looked really stressed and asked them if they were doing something that could make her act like that. They didn't. Then the doctor and the parents noticed some really tiny dots in the girl's belly, and they had no idea where they came from. The babysitter told them that she had no idea, but they didn't believe her and secretly put cameras to spy on what she was doing. Turns out that she was crazy. She was stabbing the baby with a needle from time to time and doing things like shaking her cradle incredibly hard to torment her. Of course, they called the police, confronted her, and she got arrested. Story 3. I house/dog sit for friends of my parents. The first time I did, they mentioned that they had the security camera by the front door and it was motion activated, and I didn't really think anything of it. They were gone for a few weeks. They came home. Their 2 giant huskies are happy. I get paid and all is well. A couple weeks later, my mom calls me laughing and laughing. My parents had dinner with the friends I dog sat for, and they showed a video to my parents from the front door cam. Apparently, all it showed was me sprinting full speed down the hallway, a dog toy in hand, the biggest stupid grin on my face, followed by the 2 huskies running and sliding after me, followed by me, followed by the huskies, over and over and over and over again. I sit for them as often as I can. Story 4. My family bought one to see our dogs when we leave on vacation twice a year. It's one where they can hear us, and we thought it'd be great. We hardly used it. We also asked our maid to sit for us while we were out. Once when we looked at the feed, we saw the dog sitter there a solid 30 minutes early just petting the dogs and playing with them. Since she's retired from working, but she was the sweetest old lady, and we love her. Another time, my dad left a wad of cash on top of the washing machine, about $600, and she put a rubber band around it with a note saying he misplaced it. Story 5. My story isn't that interesting, but I have a camera to check in on my rabbit when I'm not there. The biggest surprises were mostly just how almost nobody followed my pet sitting instructions. The one exception, ironically, was my brother, who claimed to hate the rabbit and always wanted to get rid of it. I got an alert one day that my camera had detected movement while my bro was there taking care of him, and I decided to take a peek. I opened the app connected to the camera and saw my bro walk into my room, lay on the floor, and start playing with my rabbit. It just warmed my heart. Story 6. I dog sit for some neighbors, one of which told me she has a camera in the living room/dining room for her dogs. You know those ones that dispense treats? Anyways, I thought it was a strange essential oil diffuser until she told me what it was. I was being paid to play with them for an hour, but she found out that I was actually staying for 2 or 3 hours. When she asked me about it, I think I said something like, I'd want someone to do the same for my dog. Ever since then, she leaves me treats in the kitchen and even got me a Christmas present from the dogs. Story 7. I was the child, and there weren't any nanny cams, but my parents had left a small bucket of toys and things to keep me busy, and they hired a babysitter to watch me while they both had to take overtime at work and knew they would be gone most of the day. The babysitter moved that bucket of toys to another room, put me in a crib, and proceeded to go off and read or something, and left me there for hours with nothing to do, only coming back to check on me or feed me. My parents came back to me just sadly sitting in my crib. Story 8. The family I nanny for told me that their previous nanny got caught doing loads of awful things. The couple that outraged me most were, number 1, leaving their 3-year-old daughter in the tub with water up to her chest for 2 hours every day while she sat in another room unable to see said child, And number 2, once she went to run an errand with the same kids, and their doorbell camera caught her putting the kid in the car seat, not buckling her, and peeling off. The mom said you could see the toddler trying to buckle herself in before they took off. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Story 9. I got a nanny cam to keep an eye out for my elderly grandfather, especially when the home aides were there. My grandfather started asking for lots of cash and couldn't remember what was happening to it. A brooch that my aunt was supposed to get disappeared, and then I heard reports of my grandfather being inappropriate with some of the home health aides. He was busted squirreling away his medication that he was supposed to be taking in his chair, giving money to an aide, and being inappropriate to another aide. Story 10. My uncle told me this once when a babysitter was holding his daughter, my older cousin, when she was a baby. The baby was playing with her toys, and she somehow swallowed a small piece of something, and the babysitter performed the Heimlich, but for babies. There's a version of it for babies. I don't know where I found it, though. She saved my cousin, and her family was thankful. They have no idea where the babysitter is now, but right now she's supposed to be around her late 40s. Story 11. I've been a pretty regular weekend nanny for an amazing family for 4 years now. They've cycled through a couple different weekday nannies since I've been with them. There's only one monitor, and it's in the little dude's room. Once the mom showed me on the camera why they let one go. The little dude said, "Mommy said I don't have to do that." And the nanny snapped back, "Well, it doesn't matter, Mommy's a witch," and then dragged the kid out of the room by his shirt. Super fired. Story 12. We have a security camera in my bedroom for my free roam bunny, so we can keep an eye on her whilst we work or if we go on holiday, etc. Well, my dad is 50 and is a big bloke who acts like he doesn't like pets. Came over to visit one day whilst I was out. He went into my room and crouched down, calling the bunny, and he spent an hour trying to pet the rabbit and kept repeating in a soft voice, "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to pet you and see how fluffy you are." Story 13. Well, a case which happened near where I live. A woman used to work, husband out of the country, had a 2-year-old kid. They hired a nanny to look after him during the day. Day by day, the kid started looking malnourished, so she set up a spy cam. Apparently, the lady used to bring her kid and feed him all the food left for the kid she was supposed to babysit. Then she would feed the kid cheap biscuits. She was promptly handed over to the police. Story 14. The dog sitter seemed to get it, but she forgot to convey to her boyfriend who came out and walked around naked quite a bit. Not me, but my aunt's friend set up a nanny cam because she noticed that every time she changed her child's diaper, the child would start crying a lot more than usual. Turns out when they watched the nanny change her diaper, she would use Clorox wipes if they were nearby instead of grabbing the baby wipes. Story 15. We didn't have a nanny cam, but my mom set up the camcorder when she suspected our babysitter was stealing, and then caught the babysitter stealing. She returned most of the stuff when my mom threatened to report her to the police. I think she should still have reported her anyway. Now she probably just went on stealing at other people's places. Story 16. A little late to the party, but here goes. My mom suspected our maid of stealing the silverware, and she's just freaking nosy. Anyway, the maid was indeed stealing silverware. I think that ended up being overshadowed by my dad effing her, though. If watching adult videos has taught me anything, your dad was just punishing her for stealing. Story 17. I was the kiddo. My mom often tells the story of how she watched me give a big old hug to my babysitter who just broke down out of nowhere after serving me lunch. Turns out her dad had ended his life a month back, and it just wasn't a good day for her. I still remember you, Ms. Yancey. I hope you're doing just fine now. Story 19. Wish I had a nanny cam. My stepsister was watching my brother with disabilities for me. She would dump out the contents of his capsules and use them later. Didn't find out about it till he started having seizures constantly and ended up in the hospital for the second time. Story 20. I'm not a parent, rather the child and I had this nanny, or Yaya as we would call it. It became useless because she soon found out and kept unplugging the camera. It turns out she was slowly stealing money from my family. We fired her. Story 21. This isn't a bad one. My parents caught the babysitter carrying our 60-pound golden retriever like he was a baby. We caught our maintenance guy spooning with our 130-pound mastiff on the floor. We encourage their love as best we can now. Story 22. Friends of ours don't have kids, but have dogs. They were going out of town and told the dog sitter about all the cameras, including the one that's outside, but sometimes picks up reflections and will actively notify them of the motion. Story 23. This was my equivalent of pre-K. All the kids were regressing in their movement ability and getting really fat, so they set up spy equipment. Turns out one carer was doubling every baby's food portion and forcefully overfeeding them. Story 24. I've caught her making pillow forts that are heavily resistant to the monsters that may or may not come out during heavy thunderstorms with my kiddo. 20 minutes after bedtime. Needless to say, she was dealt with appropriately. Story 25. I pay my neighbor to feed the stray cats in my garden when I'm away for days at a time, and the camera caught my neighbor trying to come in by bamboo pole vaulting one time. He nailed it amazingly. Story 26. Friend caught her rummaging through her closet and stealing a blouse. She confronted her about it when she returned home, and the woman played innocent. She was wearing the freaking blouse. Story 27. Not a parent, caught my little sister's babysitter catching a good hour-long nap at 2 p.m. while my 1-year-old sister was up having the time of her life destroying the PlayStation. Story 28. We once caught the nanny putting charcoal to feed them as a snack. This woman claimed that she thought it was a snack. It was in a charcoal box. My brothers were 4. Story 29. The couple I sat for had a nanny cam in their living room, the kind that went in bears. They got me on video giving their 2-year-old the Heimlich after he tried to eat a rock. Story 30. She stole a single puzzle piece of what we were trying to solve. Saw her put it in her pocket. Final straw was stealing one of our freaking potted plants. Story 31. She picked up our pug Doogie and was dancing around the living room with him while that "Hey, I Just Met You" song was playing. Story 32. My aunt has a nanny cam and finds my other cousin's babysitter playing blackjack with him. She lost $50. Story 33. A friend caught his nanny hitting their kid for interrupting that day's binge of the TV show Friends. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.